Hello, INTPs. Happy New Year. Hello, everyone watching. I was inspired to talk about a topic today. The word is permission. And I was inspired by Graham Cochran. I watched his latest video, where he talked about how he held an event for entrepreneurs. They were all very successful, but they all gathered at an event, and he realized they gathered there not so much to learn anything, but mainly to give themselves permission to do what they already knew they had to do. And I would say almost like at a high level, what self-awareness is, like radical authenticity is the permission to do what you know you have to do. And I think knowing your type can really show you where you aren't doing that and where you have been doing that but you didn't realize. So I want to explore this idea of permission. And first I'll talk about why perhaps permission can be particularly tough for INTPs. And actually, I actually believe that it can be tough. It can be even more tough in some ways for INFPs. But that's besides the point. What I'm talking about INTPs here. And first I'll say, especially in this scientific age, extroverted thinking is almost like the default of what it means to have proof and evidence that something exists. And so extroverted thinkers actually have quite an advantage when it comes to having permission, because they can look out into the world and they can look for what people are doing and what people are looking for, and they instantly know already that that's what they can do. People are asking for that, and so they already have permission. And in a way, I'll say like extroverts essentially, they have an easier time giving themselves permission because there's some physical experienced thing that's showing them that they have the permission to do that. Except for intuition, of course, because intuition is somewhat discounted in culture, right? So extroverted thinkers, like they look out and they see people asking for stuff and they see what people are doing, and they can work with that and interflow right away. However, the INTP process is opposing that. I see what people are asking for, I see what people are doing, and then I ask myself, that's interesting. I wonder why they're doing that. I wonder what the underlying system is here beyond what people are asking for and what they're doing. And then I come up with my own theory that no one else has come up with. It's my own. And thus, it is disconnected from permission of the tribe, right? So just by nature, I think like the way that I naturally think will not naturally lead to permission. But I want to talk about what can come next. I'll talk about my own story about how I gave myself permission. But you can see that in a way almost, because our theories are our own, personal, and because we're using intuition to come up with them, we are going to be, our way of thinking is going to be quite naturally disconnected from the majority of people. And they won't be able to see their go-to ways of evaluating it using evidence or results or proof. And that's just the way it is. Let me talk about my story now of giving myself permission. I'll start by saying, like, I realized, looking back, that I've been INTP my whole life. Just constantly saying INTP stuff. My aunt has stories about me when I was like 5 years old, saying that. And however, when I trace, I see that like right around high school, I get quieter and quieter, like sharing my INTP side, because I realize that no one else is talking this way. And I go more and more like reclusive, until I get my first job. And at my first job, I realized, wow, even in this group of people, I'm fine with them, but even with them, I'm anxious. And so I start to diagnose that, start to work on that, think about that. One key point was when I read a random right, NE Quora post talking about how a traveling speaker would always he talked about how he would always pretend that he understood what the other person was talking about, and the key of the story was that by doing that he was blocking himself from learning. And so he said from then on he always answered truthfully whether he didn't know something, and he wanted to talk to that person after the talk to learn more. And so I took that at work. I always instantly admitted when I didn't know something, right? That's an aside. The main point here is, actually that's part of the story. By being open with not knowing stuff, that was a big step into giving myself permission to be myself in the world. Because that's very much NE. So I learned that. But fast forward 6 months, fast forward a year and a half, and I've gotten quite competent at software engineering, and we have a new coworker. An idea had been bubbling up in my mind. Hey, there aren't that many people talking about their journey as a beginner to things. So my view of the world as a new college graduate is that for like the first is that no one talks about what it's like for the first 4 or 5 years of your career. It's almost like everyone disappears for 3 years, and then and then some people emerge as experts in the end, and everything in between is just magic. You start to think, you start to, like, that way of thinking kind of makes you think like, oh, there are talented people and they're experts, and there's nothing in between. So I had this bubbling idea, and the coworker asked like, oh, what are your side projects? And I just on a whim shared this idea that I wanted to talk about that. Well, that was the birth of the idea of this first blog that I wanted to come up with. And I want to show you. First, I'll show you the blog. But this was a big step. This is 20 minutes a day blog.wordpress.com, right? This is the first post. You can pause and read it if you'd like. But I had this idea for a blog where for 20 minutes a day I track my progress learning game development. But very strangely, I set up this blog on WordPress, I put the first post, and then I didn't share it with anyone for like 2 weeks because it was a big step to give myself permission to be able to talk about it, right? To be able to show the world what I did. And I'll show you. I sat on this post for 2 weeks. Oh, hold on. Maybe this. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's the one. I sat on this post for 2 weeks, and then one day I said, you know what? I'm just gonna post it. And I as soon as I posted it, I instantly entered cognitive dissonance, and I said, oh, why did I do that? I should pull it down. For that whole day, I entered cognitive dissonance, and every hour I thought about pulling it down, and every hour I just decided to say, okay, I'll think about that next time. I wake up the next morning, and I see my post, and I think, wow, this is awesome. This is a really cool thing. I'm so glad someone posted this. I'm so glad someone shared this. And little did I know that was like the seed of an idea that sparked a whole journey of exploration, because that was an experience that showed me that what I think right now is not what I'm gonna think afterwards. The old me died. The old me thinking, "Oh, I need to protect what I say," and the new me was born, where it's like expressing myself is valuable. So this sparked a long process of many experiments, which I actually document in this blog. One of them being doing Toastmasters. That was a very key part of it. Toastmasters is public speaking. I was actually a president of a club for 2 years, and the process of learning public speaking was also very much this process of just trying to give a speech. Any entering cognitive dissonance, saying like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have given that speech. Why did I give that speech? I shouldn't talk about that stuff." 3 days later, this pearl of an insight comes up that says, oh, you were completely fine giving that speech, and here's why. Huge transformative experience that public speaking was. And then I had the inspiration to do another experiment. Let me show you this, where I lived in San Francisco at the time. I would scream at the top of my lungs at a certain cliff every morning to just see how it felt. So you can hear this. Oh, hold on. Let me turn it down, maybe. Oh.
Ah! Ah!
There's some more. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm not showing you. Let me show you. Yeah. And that was practice in gathering attention and holding it, and not apologizing. Also, very, very transformative. I guess I took it down now, but I did it in Powell Street Station in San Francisco. That was terrifying, but also proof of the theory that nothing was going to happen. And almost like 3 seconds later, it's as if it's just a dream now. So these are 3 huge experiments I did. And looking back, you can see the dots, right? It was an experiment in giving myself permission. And it's not just like the permission of normal people, or I guess permission of other types, but permission that's led from extrovert intuition. I have a certain theory about how the world works, and I move forward to prove it to myself. I continue to do that right now, and this YouTube video is an example of, like, the format of this YouTube video is like, I have no idea what works, but I'm just gonna do what I think I would love to watch, and I thank you for watching, and I hope you get a lot out of it. But why I feel so comfortable jumping into the unknown of the YouTube video, and jumping into the unknown of, like, first of all, YouTube video, is because of these experiments I've done in the past. Each one increasingly more and more exposing, each one equally unfounded by evidence, except for when you look around and you realize that everyone is doing what you're doing too. In a phrase, everyone is just winging it and figuring it out as they go. But the more I gather evidence, my own evidence, that my own theories at least inspire me and I can see the truth in them, the more I can be comfortable in taking on the next experiment. And the more I understand how I think. I think INTPs really, no one can give you permission. You need to give yourself permission. And from my own experience, I think what I've seen is the permission comes from just, you don't have to do a big thing, but just follow your theory where it goes. And then you will probably discover, by the way, that you were right. And the reason why you will discover you were right is the thoughts you have are not crazy. They're not out of nowhere. They are the creation of this beautiful mind. So, sometimes you're going to be wrong, sure. But everyone's going to be wrong sometimes. And being wrong is like the SI development of your theory crafting way of thinking. So this set of books here, right? This was my latest experiment, giving myself I had a theory about how INTPs work that I shared with you last video. And this is me proving it to myself. And just the pattern of my life has been that every theory that I prove to myself gives me more and more permission to myself to keep going, to keep on experimenting. I do that at work. I still remember the very first time I spoke up and I gave constructive criticism to my boss. It was terrifying once again, and he got very angry. But then he sat on it for 3 or 4 days, and he took it. And it was a experiment in myself in being completely neutral as I share this. I said the phrase, "Let's not talk about the people, let's talk about the problem." And regardless of how it turned out, there are many things that I actually really like giving feedback because it reflects back on me, and then I feel like I also have to reflect it, right? But anyways, it was once again an experiment, me validating my own theory, an experiment to validate my own theory, and I learned a ton from that. And I'm doing that right now at work too. And I feel like I cannot help but do that in order to be engaged in my projects. I must have a theory and a hunch and then engage it and demonstrate and validate it in public. And that is how I can remain engaged in what I'm doing. So as I share this with you, I am learning with you as I share. And that's what I find beautiful too, is a lot of times when I teach or when I share ideas, I'm formulating them with you. And as I learn them, they become like the background to which I look at the world. And then I find clear evidence that I wasn't seeing before because it wasn't the lens through which I was seeing things. So I thank you for that. But the overarching idea I'm reaching for here is like where is the source of the INTP's permission? And the source of the INTP's permission, from what I've seen here, is I guess first the belief that your theory is there's meaning in your theory, and then second, an understanding of where your theory is coming from. Your theory is not just a random idea coming from nowhere. It is coming from a deep intelligence that no one else can see. But the more you trust it and you move into it and you discover that there is so much there, the more you can find permission for your INTP, for that way that you think. And it's, I mean, I was just also like linking to the previous video. It's also, or linking to the idea that in the previous video I said you're probably people pleasing too much. I said that, right? You can see how doing this is very naturally, almost, it goes away from people, and it is isolating somewhat, because you're thinking to yourself, what do I think is happening here? And then you say, oh well, if that's the case, then here are all the possibilities I can go down. Yes, there are people that think like you, and you can do this with them, but this is inherently, this is very personal. And all I can say is, after you've demonstrated that this is personal, no one else can see it, but it's real, then now you can give yourself permission to continue down this process. And I think after seeing this, you might look at like the famous INTPs of history, and you'll see that they did this. And again, it's not very culturally aligned. It's naturally isolating. It's not there's the T culture in the world, and there's an FE culture in the world. Like, oh, who are you helping when you do that? Or like, oh, like, is that responsible? But the INTPs are very strange, or not strange. It's just interesting being an INTP, because I'm starting to realize that most people's evidence, or most people's advice, is not my advice. So I also hope in a way that me talking here about this is a source of permission for you to better understand this vague thing that's going on in you. And it just feels like everything that everyone tells you to do feels like you wish so much that they were right, but you also know they're wrong. And there's something else you think is right, but no one's giving you the permission to do that. I'll give you the permission to do that. And ultimately you'll discover that feeling, that thought you have, is the permission. You're right. You are right. Well, you are going the path down right. I'm not saying that the first idea you have will be right, but that direction is right. And the reason why it's right is you are compelled to go down it. And like how salmon find their way to the breeding grounds, or like how birds find their way flying south just from a gut feeling, that direction that you are compelled to go down, there's value down that direction because you're compelled to go there. And you will iterate and like NE into it until you find it. Is there more I can share about my own journey? There was also a very interesting period I had there where I was approaching strangers and really understanding what is involved with that. I think maybe I'll talk about that in another video. I will say that one big takeaway from that was that there are people that will love you, there are people that will hate you, there are people that for no reason at all do not want to talk to you. It has nothing to do with you. And on my own end, the more I act like myself, the easier it is to approach people, and the more fun it feels. I don't have to try to be anyone else. And even if I tried to be someone else, it would be so tiring because I would have to hold that up. No. Like eventually, what I learned was, instead of being like hi, instead of trying to meet the expectation of a friendly and outgoing person, I can just be like hi, and the benefit is on their end because they can sense that I'm real. The benefit is on my end because I can feel real, and I can do that forever. I learned a ton from that, but the takeaway for you right now, related to this video, is I gave myself permission to go down that path. Permission. At a higher level, I think MBTI and Jung's work is an exploration into giving ourselves permission to be ourselves. Jung's talk about individuation. He kind of systematized and made conscious this yearning we have to be ourselves. And because we can now see it consciously on a map, we can say, oh, so I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm actually just answering the call of being more myself. So I'm very encouraged by that. And I encourage you to think about what permissions you are allowing yourself to listen to. And do they actually empower you? Do they actually empower you? Because if we look on the map of all the ways that you can have a reality and you can follow permissions, I would say that if we are not following our own theories and our own experiments to validate those theories or curiosities out there, I would say if you are not allowing yourself to do that, you can ask yourself why. Why are you not giving yourself the permission to do that? Because it is in your nature. Not to overreach, but I can ask myself that. And what I've seen is, it's just very simply an exercise of self-expression, self-awareness, self-expression. And more than many other types, the permission will have to come from you, because the message is also coming from inside of you. But I just say to you that can be enough. That is enough. And if you need anything more, I can tell you, hey, that's what I've seen in my life. You can at least get some permission from my own story. You can get permission from my statement here. And I'd love to hear what you have to think, or any experiences you have. And that might just wrap it up. But I'm continuing to move into this voice that's talking to me and giving it permission to get out there in the world. And it's fun. It's much less doubtful these days because I've been able to prove to myself that it's real. So that's that. Talk to you next time.